Hey guys, welcome back to Critical Flick. I continue my series reviewing this miniseries on HBO Chernobyl, and today we're going to talk about episode 4. So, if you've watched any of Chernobyl so far, seen any of my reviews, this show has been a really difficult show to watch. It's had some really graphic and powerful imagery revolving the events that took place in Chernobyl with the power plant. And I have to say, I think this episode may have been the most difficult for me to watch in particular. Episode 4 is revolving around the cleanup after the disaster, particularly trying to clean off the roof of all the radioactive graphite, as well as clearing out the areas around Chernobyl and around the power plant. And one of the hardest things to watch with this episode, and I think a lot of people probably had difficulty watching this, because in this episode, they have to kill the animals that are around the area. They're cleansing the land of everything that's radiated. They're, turning up the soil, burying it underneath itself. They're trying to have all these thousands and thousands of soldiers and men go around and basically just tear apart the area, trying to get all the radiation destroyed, and that involves killing animals, and in particular in this episode, domesticated dogs. And it's just really hard to watch that as someone who has a dog and really loves animals. My wife couldn't even watch it. I think a lot of people probably couldn't watch it. And they didn't shy away from it. This show's never shied away from showing some really graphic things, whether it be last episode with the liquidators having their, skin coming off and their bodies being destroyed by radiation. And yeah, this isn't an exception. They showed it right in your face, the horrors that this event created. But on the positive note, Barry Keoghan's character is introduced in this episode. You may know him from Dunkirk. I know him also from Killing the Sacred Deer, if you've seen that film. And he's always been a pretty good actor, and this wasn't an exception in this role. He plays a young man who's brought in to help with the army. He's not a member of the army, but they're running out of men. They're taking, tens of thousands of men to do this thing. And they bring him in to help, and he's put in that group that has to kill all the animals, and he's obviously struggling with it. There's a really hard scene in it, with puppies, and seeing his character deal with the psychological aspects of this and what it has done to these people. And there's even a speech with him and another character that talks about how you're changed by these events, whether the first time you kill a human or an animal. And I don't know, this kind of pushes into the psychological damage this event did to the people that were there that had to deal with these things, not just physically being affected by the radiation, but psychologically having to see these horrible things happen and do horrible things in the name of cleaning up this tragedy. I thought that Stellan Skarsgård had his best performance of the season so far. There's a scene where he has to deal with the higher-ups and their just ineptitude to get anything done, and him freaking out. He smashes a phone. I think it was one of his best performances of the season. Speaking of the higher-ups, this show just gets harder and harder to watch, just how incompetent the people at the highest levels of the USSR were during this event. They weren't willing to work with people like the United States, because, we were in the Cold War. They weren't willing to work with them, even if it would have meant saving men. And speaking of saving men, at the end of this episode, you're seeing them try to clear the roof off. They've tried to use robots. It doesn't work because they get ineffective robots because they lie about how bad the radiation is to the people supplying the robots. And they decide the only way they're going to be able to do this is to put people on the roof. And they clearly state that the levels of radiation on the roof will kill people. It's just not going to work, and they still go ahead with it anyway, and they show a whole uncut segment of people clearing the roof, and they're given 90 seconds. They come back in, come back out, and it's just excruciating to watch. You have the meters just crackling, going crazy. These people are in direct contact with extremely high levels of radiation, and watching that it's just so hard to watch the show, but they don't shy away from it. They're in your face. They're showing you how bad this is, and it's just some really powerful television. And the ending of this episode had some really powerful imagery as well. You're seeing a woman who you saw through the series with her husband was a firefighter who died in the last episode, and you find out she's pregnant. And you find out through another character that her child absorbed the radiation that she had got from touching her husband when he was radiated and being around the events. And the child died. And they linger on this empty crib and then to her. And it's just, the imagery of that is so powerful, while not being grotesque or as graphic as this, the firefighter dying or the dogs being killed. It's just as powerful. And this show is incredible. It's something that I feel like needs to be told. I'm glad that it's out there. People seem to be watching it. I've been captivated by it. I've been reading into the history, learning more from people. You guys have been commenting below, people that were in the area, people that know about it. And it's crazy. Everything about it is crazy. I never would think in a million years that something like this happened in reality, and I didn't know about it. People didn't know about it, and that shows just how far the higher-ups in the Soviet Union were willing to risk anything just to not look bad in the global community. So, like this last few episodes, I think this was a great episode. Give it a big thumbs up, but man, this is some rough television to watch, I have to say. I'm glad it's only 5 episodes. If it was any longer, I don't think I could handle it. It's just, every time is an emotional wreck, and just watching it, and just the tension, the way they're able to just show this event, and film it, and write it, and the way that it's acted is excellent, but just so terrifying and so horrible. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and let me know how you're liking it so far. Was this a hard episode for you to watch? Do you think this was, like it was for me, the hardest thing to watch in the show so far? And always keep the conversation in the comments. I really enjoy seeing the back and forth and even learning new things from people that may know that are obviously older than me or around during the time. And yeah, I just keep it going. And I'll see you guys next time.